Hello, everyone. My name is Kurt Bachman, and welcome back to The Ultimate Dish. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Eden Grinshpan, TV food personality, cookbook author, and beloved host of Top Chef Canada. Eden's journey is a masterclass in following your passion across continents and cultures. After earning her culinary degree at the Cordon Bleu in London, she traveled and ate her way across Europe, India, Southeast Asia, and Israel, where she spent summers growing up. This exploration resulted in her culinary travel show for the cooking channel, Eden Eats, which she produced and hosted at just 23 years old. Since 2017, Eden has been the host of Top Chef Canada, bringing her relatability, raw sincerity, infectious goofiness to one of the culinary world's most prestigious competitions. Eden is also the creator of the wildly popular online platform Eden Eats, known for her big, bold, veg-forward cooking that's both approachable and absolutely delicious. Her first cookbook, Eating Out Loud, established her as a voice for joyful Middle Eastern and Mediterranean-inspired cooking. Now Eden is back with her highly anticipated second cookbook, Tahini, baby, which launched this past April. The book offers over 100 veg-based recipes and that showcase her joyful, playful, and always forgiving, we'll talk about that, approach to Middle Eastern and Mediterranean-inspired meals. Eden splits her time between Toronto and New York with her husband, Ido, and their two daughters, Ave and Romy. Get ready for a conversation about the magic of tahini, the art of hosting, and why veg-forward cooking is having its moment. And there she is. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
That was a beautiful introduction.
That was pretty good, huh? We have to pick a couple of things apart, right? Right off the bat, and I wrote these down earlier, having its moment. I'm totally stealing that. I'm speaking at a graduation. I'm stealing it from you.
I'm like, should I, after this, can you send me that little?
I will send that to you.
You summed up my life so well. I'm like still struggling to write a freaking regular bio for my website.
I just love, why is veg-forward cooking having its moment? That's so beautiful.
You know what? It is. And I think it's just because, I think people are just excited about, seeing different ways to eat and cook veg. I think our knowledge behind it was very straightforward for a really long time. And obviously with, health, just kind of like world pollution and just overall, I think actually budgets. People are just starting to veer more and more into veg forward cooking. And also it's feel good food. For me, every time, like this happened very organically over like the last, I would say like 5 years, since I actually came out with my first book, Eating Out Loud. My first book, I had to obviously put together over 100 recipes to describe the way I cook, my favorite food, and how I like to just feed my family and friends. And it just so happened to be very veg forward. And I was like, oh, like this is clearly something that I am attracted to, something that I like to serve my friends. My friends always complimented me on like, the simplicity, but also the way I kind of like showcase vegetables with spices and condiments and layering. And then when people started talking to me about those recipes, everyone was always really intrigued by my veg chapter, my salads, my dips. And also, again, the way I cook, contemporary Middle Eastern, Mediterranean, those particular kinds of flavors and cuisines are easily veg, legume, grain forward. So over the last 5 years, it was just something I kind of just leaned into and focused on and wanted to celebrate even more. And then Tahini Baby was a no-brainer. And just to focus on making it completely vegetarian and to showcase that, nothing really felt like it was missing from the table when you would put together all these beautiful variety of dishes.
I'm totally off script already. I'm going to get in trouble. But when you were talking about eating out loud, the first thing that I didn't think about earlier, what was that a metaphor?
Oh, the title? Like what?
Yeah.
So I really wanted that title to really showcase the way I cook, who I am,
Yeah.
the way I entertain. I actually sat with my husband. I'll never forget. We were eating at Cafe Mogador in Williamsburg. And we were just kind of like workshopping the title. Like, I feel like eating, like, it just felt like it made sense with Eat and Eat. Like, we're not like grazing. We're not like tasting. We're eating. We're enjoying. We're eating. And Ido was trying to kind of like, he's like, let's use words that just you and describe the way you cook and the way you entertain. And I have never in my life, I am still looking for this at almost the age of 40, found my indoor voice. And I think that really also translates to the way I connect with people and the way I cook for people. So loud was very much a word that we kept coming back to. And when we kind of started, saying out loud, like, we're not hiding, we're bold. Like, this is going to be like bold cooking. This is a bold way of like, you're not being like, you know, precious or perfect. We're being bold, we're being loud, and we're celebrating and we're just eating. Like, I talk about it in the intro. I'm like, your pants better be like unbuttoned. Like, we're kind
Or
of like in your face a little. And I think I just really summed up who I am and how I do things.
well, I think it jumped off the page for me a little bit too because I grew up in a European household where dining was it it was time for family, but it was also time to sit up straight and keep your elbows off the table and you chewed with your mouth closed. And my 14-year-old boy, who's a sophomore in high school, he's a monster, right? He's over 6 feet tall. He's 185 pounds. He eats loud, right? And I'm always like, hey, his name's Joseph Henry. And I'm like, you're eating with your mouth open. He's like, Dad, it's so good. Like Gretchen cooks very plant forward at the house, and we celebrate at the dinner table, much like you're talking about. But we eat loud.
Yeah.
We eat out loud,
So do
and
we. So do we.
yeah, and you could see the joy
Yeah.
of a great salad or a crunchy pepper or something.
Totally.
So
And it's funny because my husband grew up in a German household where like manners were everything. And I grew up dancing around the dinner table with my
yeah,
sister,
it's
putting on
identical to my family. Yeah, yeah.
literally putting on like performances. That was like the dinner time was our time to connect and to perform and to just like we were always just like wild and free. It obviously not in like an like crazy way, but like it was always like our safe space to just express ourselves and like be loud and excited. And food was always something like we love to eat. And I don't know, it felt right.
I love that we were talking before the show started about this thing, right? And that's the one rule Gretchen has is that we just pause from these for a bit so that the dinner table can be a celebration. We're all running a million miles an hour, and it's that one time in the day where we can find out, why Joseph Henry got a C in French and why Grayson wants to skip gymnastics, and all of that kind of stuff. So no, I love that. And again, we're still not even off the intro yet. Forgiving approach to cooking.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Um, you
Giving
know,
yourself grace to some degree?
100%. Like
Okay.
I feel, especially, listen, I went to Le Cordon Bleu. I have this amazing, as you said earlier, like ability, chance to train under incredible chefs. And I've worked in kitchens and I absolutely love and respect the industry. I also felt sometimes though that it really stopped me from being able to really express like maybe sometimes not being perfect when I cooked a certain way or didn't feel like technical. And also, I think the way my food has evolved over the last 10 years, even more, is more of like a relatable kind of home style way of cooking.
Hmm.
And I find that a lot of people don't take chances because they're afraid it's not going to turn out perfect or they don't have every spice and so they can't make that recipe. Or, cooking is an expression and it's like I wouldn't put baking into this category, but cooking, you have more flexibility to play. And I think for me, like telling people that I don't always get it perfect or sometimes I mess up, it gives them that kind of reassurance that it's okay to take the chance, even if it's not going to be perfect. And like for me, that's really important because you have to try it to learn. You have to make it to understand. And also, like, listen, I'm a mom of two. I don't have all the time in the world to get like everything perfect. You have to sometimes use the shortcuts, get a little messy, and
And
sometimes,
that's okay. That's
and it's
okay.
great. I
Yeah.
think that that's
Yeah.
actually something to really embrace. Like, we're all human beings. So I'm trying to kind of make it fun, make it light, and very as approachable as possible always.
I love that. And, a little serendipitous history between the two of us. And I want to talk about Escoffier just for 1 second because you said something really impactful just a second ago. You said that your cooking has evolved. And interestingly enough, 100 years ago, Auguste Escoffier said, and I quote, cooking like fashion must evolve with time and take into account the changes in people's lives. And I'm getting chills because that's exactly sort of what you're relating to. And what's really interesting, like we talked about at the beginning, I spent, about 20 years with that Le Cordon Bleu organization, and the focus was on techniques. That's what I loved. The same as with Escoffier. The focus is on the techniques, and they can be applied to any item, any culture, any cuisine. But what we have to focus on is quality, right? And the celebration around the food. Today, maybe even more than ever before, knowing where that food comes from, right?
Mm.
Know a local farmer. It's funny. One of the first things I do often is I go into the classroom and I'll say, hey, you guys know where those carrots came from? And, they'll say Whole Foods. I'm like, well, not the answer I'm looking for, right?
Yeah.
We will teach you a little bit about where your things come from. But gosh, can you tell that I'm really, really excited to have you on the show today? We're going to talk about Tahini Baby. What a name. What a name. I know it's been out for a few months, but wow. In my mind, hot off the press. But if I could just say, Eden, really quickly, your social media, let me just say, is it's adorable, it's infectious, it's intoxicating because I can see the joy, I could see the staircase, I could see your personality and your family's personality coming through. It's not staged, as you
Mhm.
mentioned. It's not the perfect shot. It's reality. It's
Oh,
genuine. It's
I'm the
honest.
worst liar. This is like I talked about. I'm like, I'd be the worst actor.
Yeah,
Can't lie.
yeah, and
Um,
that's good. Congratulations, though, on that, because I know that's you, right?
yeah,
That's you staying honest with
yeah,
yourself,
yeah,
and you've been doing this for a long time. By the way, this is Toronto, right? This is
yeah.
not New
This
York.
isn't. I'm in
This is
Toronto right now.
Toronto. Yeah,
Yeah.
see? I'm not stalking you, I promise, but I do
You know,
follow.
I do want to go back quickly though. You were talking about the techniques you learned. So that when I went to Le Cordon Bleu, I knew literally nothing.
Hmm.
And I was so nervous because I was like, how can I go to culinary school and have like no background in food and cooking? And exactly what you said, I feel very lucky that I got to go at that really important phase of my career in this space because I got to get those techniques ingrained in me right off the bat. So, and that's something that whether or not I pay attention to it, it's just part of who I am in this kitchen and how I cook.
It's
I will
muscle
always,
memory. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
I will always have that experience and those techniques and those tips basically ingrained. And that's the backbone of everything that I'm doing in the kitchen. I'll always have that. That's where a lot of that kind of like confidence really, I'm sure comes from. But also what you said too, it's like the 10 years plus of experience where it's like the evolution of who you are as a cook and what your culinary voice is, what interests you, and also based off of like where you are in your life, it completely like transforms the food that you serve. And I
yeah,
think it's
yeah.
really interesting because I have evolved completely as a cook from 18 to 39 and it's exciting because your level of expertise it just shifts and it's cool because you know
And you're always learning. And And I imagine,
That's true.
as busy as you are, as busy as many thought leaders in the space are, to write a book is it's a labor of love, but it's also a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. And I've always felt that when you're learning, you're the best teacher you've ever been. So it all kind of comes together. I'm
Yeah.
going to put this together to share my story, but I'm learning also as I go through it. Let's talk a little bit about you. You're the host of Top Chef Canada, and we talked earlier that our chef in residence here at Escoffier is Kristen Kish, who does the same here in the States. What a beautiful connection point. I absolutely love it. What's it like, if you can say, being part of the Top Chef family?
Oh my God. First of
And
all,
where did that come from? I don't know the story.
it's a journey. It's a journey. I'll try and like keep it short and sweet with the
I have
important.
all day.
Um, I do want to just say, Kristen, I'm so just obsessed with her. Like, aside from like just being, incredibly talented, she is so genuine and down to earth and just an awesome person. We become good friends. And I've been on Top Chef and she's been on Top Chef Canada. So we've had some really fun times. She's just really special. So it's just like, wow, so
That's
talented.
so great. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I've been a part of Top Chef Canada since season 5. Season 12 is currently airing,
Oh my goodness.
and
Wow.
it's been truly like one of the like greatest honors of my, personal career, and one of the biggest things that I've been able to do, and one of the best gigs that I get to do, honestly. Sorry. And so I went to Le Cordon Bleu when I was 18 years old. I did a lot of backpacking, as you said. And I moved to New York City and I ended up quickly getting into the television industry. And I created a show with a friend of mine, and it was called Eden Eats. And it was a food and travel show where we traveled around America and we met people who immigrated from all over the world, and we learned about their stories and we saw how they recreated their culture and customs through food in America. And it was a travel series, and it was so fun, unscripted travel, kind of like Anthony Bourdain style, but in America. That
Yeah.
was like my biggest dream when I started in this industry, and it happened, which was insane. After that, I sold another show to the cooking channel called Log On and Eat with Eden. It was so ahead of the time. And the reason I say that is because it was about online food influencers and learning about their lives. And we couldn't find any of these online food influencers because it was Facebook. We were like
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Facebook looking for them. So anyways, after that, I kind of like was on this circuit of working guest hosting on different food competition shows. So I judged, Iron Chef America. I was on Beat Bobby Flay. Then I was a judge on Donut Showdown, Sugar Showdown. And I am obviously originally from Toronto, Canada, and I got a call about being a judge on Chopped Canada, and eventually got a call from a producer and said, "Listen, we're bringing Top Chef Canada back. We want to have you come in and read some lines for us." And I was literally in shock. I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Yes, you." And I'm like, "Before I come in, I need you to know a couple things about me." Like, I warned them before I even went in and auditioned. I was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
"This is who I am. I'm a little bit like this." And they're like, "Just come in, just come in." I booked the gig. And it's like, I swear, every time they renew the season and we walk onto set, it is a real pinch me moment. It's surreal. I don't know if you've seen it. It's actually unfortunately quite hard to find in the States. I told my producers, I'm like, we need to find a way to show this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be so amazing, but it's like very similar in quality to Top Chef. We get chefs coming in from all across Canada, and they compete for the title, a really big prize. And then we have all these incredible guests come in from all over. We have Danielle Boulud, we have Andy Bergani, Kristen Kish, Gail Simmons. We have the best of the best come in from the US as well to judge. So it's a really big, you know, opportunity. And it is the most prestigious culinary competition in Canada. And I get to taste all their food. It's so hard.
What is that energy like? Because you've got to be on point every single time. And yes, taste the food. There's a lot of emotion. I always say to very successful people that what our listeners often don't see and understand is all the work that went into, that moment, right? That
Yeah.
moment when you're just doing your thing. What is that energy like on the stage? I'm
So
sure you see
our
some tears too, right?
well, this particular season, actually, episode 2 airs tonight of season 12, which is like hilarious that we're even
Oh,
talking
isn't that something? Wow,
airing
wow.
right now. I think that's the most emotional season yet, especially being the host. I'm on set almost like I'm on set every day. So I get to be like a part of this entire process from beginning to end. And, I'm in charge of delivering the line of when we cut a chef from the show. It's a huge, first of all, it's a huge production. There's so many cameras. I don't think what a lot of people know is the hours are pretty insane. These chefs, they leave their lives, for a nice chunk of time. So their job, their family. They're staying in like a place where they're not with anyone but each other. And when I tell them they have 15 minutes to cook that quick fire dish, they have 15 minutes to cook that quick fire dish. And that's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time to come in and win these like amazing prizes to, get to the next level. There's so much pressure and these chefs are the best in the country. So it's not about the fact that they can't do it. It really, it's just the competition is really, really hard. And also, like, when they come into this kitchen, they've never cooked in this kitchen, they've never cooked under television lights, they've never cooked in front of, like, 20 cameras. They've never cooked for a lot of these chefs. These are, like, some of these people when these guests come in, the chefs are, like, freaking out. Like, when you cook for Danielle Boulud, it's a really big deal. Like,
Unbelievable.
so many
Yeah.
iconic chefs have come in and, over the course of the last, 7 years, and it's been a big deal for most of these chefs that are competing. So, it's
So when
just it's an amazing thing to watch, and it's an incredible thing to be a part of.
you mentioned pressure and the
Mhm.
pressure that you're seeing, 15 minutes is 15 minutes. There's no smoke and mirrors. It's not edited for, television. This is real.
Yeah.
Do you have this is a tough question, probably unfair. Do you have a philosophy around hosting and how you approach this? Has it
Oh,
changed?
hosting?
Yeah, as the host, as the person who's keeping it calm to some degree, right? Keeping it positive to some degree.
Yeah, I think that it's a combination of being very, like, delivering the lines the way I have to, like, really, I have to be very clear, very straightforward, but there's always going to be that kind of I always end up bringing some sort of lightness. They're so stressed. There's so much pressure. There's so much on the line. And I have always been like a goofball. Do not, I can't take myself too seriously. And like, I will make the biggest fool of myself always to make everyone else around me feel light and like comfortable. So I think that's something I've leaned on in my career.
That's the answer I thought you were going to give. If you're yourself, I imagine, at least to some of these contestants, and it doesn't make it any easier, but it makes it more real, right?
But I also think it's my job to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not something I've ever really, like, thought too hard about. I think it's just because naturally that's how I am with all people around me, whether or not there's cameras. I'm always aware of that. So when we're on set, I'm like I may be standing far away, but, like, I'm maintaining eye contact. I'm always smiling. I'm always, like I want them to know that I'm like this, I'm kind of, like, always gonna be there.
It's real. I'm comfortable. I'm super comfortable
I hope
today.
so.
You've made me so comfortable.
I hope so.
When it comes to Top Chef and your own cooking, which continues to evolve, and your own perspective, let's say on the industry, you know, over all these seasons, all these different people that you have met and who have impacted your life in some way, it's kind of a family, I imagine, to some degree. Um, has it changed or created some sort of perspective for you on this industry? These are the best of the best. They're trying to be even better and further their careers. How has that show influenced the way you view this industry?
Oh, I think it's been very positive.
Yeah,
Listen, we're all people. We're all human beings.
yeah,
We all
yeah.
wanna do our best. We're all trying our best. Like, especially when you're a chef, I think about the sacrifice that is required, and especially to see where these chefs are in their career. I know how much time and energy they take in their day-to-day life to make these restaurants and businesses function and be successful. It's so much. And like that's I think something that's so beautiful too about this industry. It's such a creative outlet and it's so personal to each person. And they have a story, they have a POV that they're trying to share. And I think if anything, it just kind of makes it feel like I hope that this show makes people feel so much more like it's this relatable level that, they're seeing a deeper look into how these chefs work, what their stories are, and you get a better look into the industry.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
no, for me, I think it just makes everything like I just I don't know what the word is, but like before I worked in television. Like I worked in the industry and like you go to work and you do your job and you see the other chefs working and they're doing their job and you don't really get the time sometimes to really like get to know. But in this particular industry and this part of it, I really do get to hear the stories. It just makes it so much more relatable.
Yeah, and real.
Yeah.
Along those lines, again, like I've said, people will listen to this and they'll love your success and they'll want to do, what you did. Is there any advice that you might give to someone who was you, several years ago?
To get into this
Uh,
industry.
or even to just have a good experience, maybe to experience some success, but to just have a good experience.
It's so interesting because when I started, I feel like I sound so much older than I am. When I started 20 years ago,
Oh my gosh.
no, but like for real, when I started in this industry, like there weren't that many different kinds of job opportunities in the culinary space. Like it's like you are either going to be a chef in a kitchen or maybe have a catering company. Like there's so many different things you can do with a culinary degree now. And
That's such a good point.
there
Such a good point.
ways to just be a part of the conversation. So I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
really about focusing on what that is, like food stylist, food photographer, work in books. Like there's literally so many different things that you can do. Make videos, like whatever for your Instagram. It's like I'm just saying, like there are so many different ways to celebrate food and be a part of the conversation. For me, I think the advice I would give myself if I was starting, and I think I did it on some level, but I don't think I realized it in the moment, is you really have to find out what you're really passionate about. It's good to know what's going on around you, but it's also really important to stay true to who you are and kind of put the blinders up a little bit. And you have to put 120% into whatever that is. And it's really hard, especially these days with your phone and seeing what your peers are working on and seeing their highlight reels and getting like intimidated or maybe changing your idea because you see that it worked for someone else and now maybe I should do this instead. Like it's so easy to get off track. So
I,
if anything, like figure out your shtick and put your blinders on. And just really put your head down and like believe in it.
that's going to be such a highlight reel that we're going to steal from this show because I love how you presented that through your lens, like what advice you would give to yourself
Yeah.
20 years ago. Really, really beautiful. It's interesting that you mention, and we offer, so many different programs now. 20 years ago, you're right. You're either going to be a cuisine chef or you're going to be a pastry chef, right?
Yeah.
That's all that was out there. And today we offer studies in food photography and,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship and
There's so many
hospitality.
things.
There's so many different ways that you can find your voice in this place, and the craft of cooking, if you will. I want to jump back to your culinary wanderlust, if you will. It's really fascinating, and it wasn't that long ago you took a leap of faith. You as an 18-year-old went to London, went to Le Cordon Bleu, and then you traveled to Europe and India and Southeast Asia and Israel. First I'd love to just hear how much you loved London. What stood out? What was the first thing you ate? Was it fish and chips? Beautiful city. What was that like for an 18-year-old?
Oh, that's so tough. First of all, I was like legal drinking age. What do you think I did?
Okay.
I
Well,
was
let's
like,
just
where
cut
are
to
the
the chase
pubs?
here. Okay,
Where's
let's go to the pubs.
I
There you
can't
go.
all I'm gonna say is I can never drink cider ever again.
Again.
Ever again. And it's done. Yeah, it was a while ago. I did love living in London. It was my first time living away from my family, so I was definitely
Yeah.
exploring those freedoms a lot more. But I also feel like the culinary scene in London has just like blossomed so aggressively. Like I remember
Yeah.
when I went there, everyone's like, "You're going to London to learn how to cook? Like, what are they eating?" Like it was back then when it was more like fish chips, mushy
Sure.
peas, and it was just starting to evolve. But it's actually really interesting. Do you know? Oh my God. So when I went to Le Cordon Bleu, I worked in a bunch of different restaurants, and it was right next to this Italian restaurant where Gennaro Contaldo was giving cooking classes. That is Jamie Oliver's like teacher.
Oh
Do
my
you
goodness.
remember? You know who that is? He's
Now
like
that you just said that, yes,
this
yes,
like
yes.
incredibly passionate
Wow.
Italian man and so talented. And I remember like I've like got a job helping like prep his like cooking classes or something. Like there are things that I'm thinking about. I haven't thought about this in so long, but like I remember like, I would do like really interesting things. There was this really cool, like, it's still around. It's called La Fromagerie. For the longest time, I wanted to open up this like specialty cheese shop, and it was completely inspired by this store. And they would like just import all these beautiful jams and like preserves from all over like Europe and like fresh breads, and had this like cheese room that was unbelievable. And it's still there. So you should check it out. It's right off of Marylebone Lane or
Oh,
Marylebone
okay.
Marylebone High
Yeah,
Street.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Isn't it amazing as a culinary student, you can go around the city and find cheese shops and tea shops and bread store, all of this. If you go to school for math, there's no math stores,
No,
right?
no, but that's what makes it so exciting. Like Ottolenghi. I remember going
Yes. Yeah.
eating at Ottolenghi, and I was blown away, like
Chills. Yeah.
this is the beautiful part about being in this industry. First of all, I graduated culinary school, and then I called my parents and was like, I need to backpack. I was interested in backpacking because I wanted to see the world, but I wanted to also learn about the food. And I feel like you learn so much about a culture and a country when you eat the
Through their
food,
food.
learn
Yeah.
about the food. I would take
Yeah.
cooking
Yeah.
classes in India. I took a Tibetan cooking class in Dharamsala,
Oh,
like I
wow.
was like really, and I felt like that like immersed me even closer to my experience.
That's what I was going to ask next was, did you already have a plan? So I'm going to go to London, I'm going to go to Cordon Bleu, and then I'm going to see the world. Or were you inspired while studying that I need to grab a backpack and I need to see these cultures and experience this before I become a line cook or something like that?
Literally nothing in my life has been planned.
Okay.
Nothing.
I should have
How do
known.
I explain? It's like, I was like, I don't want to go to university. And my dad planted the seed. He's like, you should go to culinary school. And I was like, that's a
That's
thing.
great.
No, I go,
Wow.
and he goes, you should go to Le Cordon Bleu in London. And like, he suggested it. And that
No
was it.
way.
There were no other options in
That's
my,
amazing.
yeah, he
That's
was like, go to Le
amazing.
Cordon Bleu in London. I was like, bye.
I'm going. I'm
See you
going.
later.
Yeah.
Left the
Yeah.
house. Lived there for 2
Wow.
years, worked in kitchens. And while I was there, I was like traveling in Europe. I went to Prague for a weekend. I went to Italy. I was starting. And because like my eyes were open to like food and on a different level because of culinary school, I'm learning about spices and I'm learning about like I studied pastry and cuisine. So like I was learning about everything. And then when I was traveling, I was exploring and I was, taking note and looking at things differently. And then when I graduated culinary school, I feel like the travel bug really hit me. And I love that feeling of being in new environments and trying new foods and being in just seeing new things. And my sister, I didn't know, I was like, should I work in kitchens? What should I do? And my sister was actually the one, she enrolled in this like travel program. It was called Leap Now, I think. And she was like, I'm going to go to Central America with them. Why don't you come? And I was like, sure, let's go.
I'm in.
We enrolled and then we paid a deposit. And they're like, we actually are so sorry. We can't let siblings go together. It's like one of these, like, explore the world and get to know yourself kind of a trip.
Okay. Okay.
So I was like, great. I paid a deposit. Where else do you go? And they're like, the first place they mentioned was India. And I was like, I don't need to hear anything else. We're going to India. And I ended up going with like several strangers. I didn't know anyone. I got on a plane, went to San Francisco, met like 7 people. And then they took us to India. And it was one of those trips where like it wasn't like, oh, we're going to this city. They're like, we're going to go and we're going to immerse you in all these different things. I lived with different families in different cities. So like, for instance, we started in Dharamsala, which is where all the Tibetan refugees are. And I lived in the Dalai Lama's temple with a family for 2 weeks. So
Wow.
like, every day I would eat lunch with like 8 monks. We would have like buttered tea and it was like the craziest experience and like so amazing. And then I would learn about Ashtanga yoga. And then I took a Tibetan cooking class. And then after we left there, we went to Rishikesh and we volunteered at an orphanage called Ramana's Garden. And we did like a trek through the base of the Himalayas. Like it was amazing. We went to Varanasi and I lived with another family and I volunteered at Mother Teresa's hospice. Like this trip completely changed my life. Like 100% shaped the person I am today. This one trip. And I just fell in love. And my father he was born in Israel. And I ended up, after I went to India, I was like, I'm going to go to Israel. I'm going to work and live with my cousin. And I moved there. I worked in kitchens. I saved up. And then I went back to India and I spent almost like 7 months there. And I went back to that orphanage in Rishikesh. And I was like, I'm going to volunteer for an extended period of time. And they had this cafe and it wasn't being run. And I was like, I just graduated culinary school. I could get this up and running for you. And then you can have this business. Then you can have like this, stream of like money coming in. And so I reopened up the cafe for this orphanage. And my dad had this idea. My dad's very creative, clearly. And he was like, on me, go buy a camera and film this. And I was like, Dad, I'm so busy. I have so many things to do for the cafe. And he's like, just do it. So I ended up grabbing a camera and I started filming it. And fast forward, after I moved to New York, we ended up getting it cut into like a sizzle reel. And that reel was how I got into television.
I just love it. I love the support, of your family, of your father. There's so many things. I'm way off script. I just want to mention little hints that you give me. So you mentioned a second ago that you studied both pastry and cuisine at Le Cordon Bleu. And I want people to understand the significance of that because the way their curriculum is set up, You could either do pastry or you could either do culinary, but it sounds like you achieved what they call the Grand Diplôme, which is not easy to do. So, congratulations on
Thank you.
that. You're so humble, you didn't even emphasize that, but I'm going to. It's very, very difficult to do that. I wanted to you touched on it just a little bit, but it's a beautiful thing that you did, and it kind of sort of highlights and demonstrates who you are as a human being. But I read about your time with the orphanage, Romana's Garden, but the fact that you reopened a cafe, not for your own goals, but to help raise money and awareness for the orphanage. I think it's absolutely spectacular this day and age. You and I talked before the show about how much time we spend on these things. That's life right there. And I'm wondering, how did that experience, and this is a hard question, um, not shape just your cooking, but also maybe your perspective on the power of food to help create change.
Well, actually, one thing that I really, when I got to India and I started working on the orphanage, was I couldn't believe how much money, like even a little bit of money could make such a big difference in that part of the world.
Yes,
So,
yes.
like, this was money, obviously, as I said, I worked in kitchens, I saved up. This is money that, like, I saved up. And I felt like I was able to actually make such a big difference and a change. And that was very powerful feeling that, like, one person could do that. And I feel like I got really, like, kind of like excited about that. And also, like, the idea of like reopening the cafe was very like a no-brainer for me. Like I saw this like beautiful space and I was like, this should be hosting people and you should be bringing people in and you can like make this work. And I just felt like what that entire experience really taught me truly was how one person can actually make a difference. And, like, I was very fortunate enough that I had this skill set and I was able to cook and bake and I could bring that to the space. And it was very much like a connecting thing. The food is a connector. I always say that, like, in whatever thing whatever project I've worked on, is it really connects. Like, even like baking in the kitchen with the kids, like that, those are like really like strong memories for me. Like, we come from such different places, but, like, we were in the kitchen baking together in that one moment, and it was such a connecting, beautiful experience. And then, we got to work on this project together. So, I don't know, I think what I learned was what one person if one person can actually do something really cool, and if given, like, the opportunity, you can actually make a difference. And, also, again, food is, like, a really beautiful, like, connecting, celebratory thing that can bring people together.
I love the term connector. It says it all. You spent summers in Israel while you were growing up, and your food is clearly very influenced by Middle Eastern and Mediterranean flavors, which I adore as well. When you came back to New York, how did you translate all these tough questions? How did you translate those global experiences, just like what you just explained,
Mm. So, when
into
I moved
to
to
your career?
yeah. I didn't actually find my culinary voice for a little bit of time. I was working in television and I was working on like these, travel shows, and I was really focused on like learning about different cuisine from all over the world. And that was very much like my focus for many years. It still is. I love it. Like that stuff really like excites me. Like going into a new grocery store and like
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
to people about different foods, like going to new restaurants, trying new dishes. I'm like, "Where is this from? Tell me your story." Like, I love that. But I am after I saw my show, I was like, "Oh, I'm in television." And what happened was, I felt very lucky. I was able to get an agent, and then my agent I started like understanding how this industry works, where it's like I'm waiting now to book another show and it's like interview and audition. And I'm very like goal focused. Like I like to have projects in the works and I like to stay really busy. And so in between gig, I was like, you know what? I want to get back to the kitchen. I'm going to have a pop up. I was living in Williamsburg, and I ended up talking to a restaurant that I was a big fan of in Williamsburg. And I said, can I do a pop up here? I'll promote it on social media and yada, yada. And it was just after a recent trip that I had to Israel. And I was very inspired by a lot of the flavors. And I wanted to kind of like put my own twist and spin. Like that's the other thing. Doesn't matter where I travel to. I've always kind of had this love for introducing people to new flavors and to new combinations and just kind of showcasing them what I learned and what I saw. So I started kind of playing around in the kitchen, and that really what that happened was I started to kind of create my own style of reinterpreting a lot of the flavors that I love. And so I had a pop up. It was very successful. Actually, they extended the pop up, and then I ended up going and competing in Burger Bash with one of the dishes that I served at the pop up. And I was like, well, this is exciting. And there's a lot of, positive like feedback. And so what I ended up doing was it really encouraged me to kind of like check out the industry. So in between my television gigs, I ended up reaching out. I don't know if you remember, there was a fast food, like a fast casual concept in New York City called By Chloe. It was plant-based, fast casual. Anyways, I loved what they were doing, and I loved how they were like I love the fast casual concept. So I ended up emailing them, and I was like, I want to take this kind of cuisine and turn it into a fast casual concept. We ended up meeting, and we opened up a fast casual restaurant called Des, and it was in Nolita. And it lasted a whole year. But
You could have said that in a different way. It lasted a whole year. Yeah.
but you know what? I want to say something. I learned so much.
So much. Yeah.
It was still an incredibly positive experience. And I wanted to actually say this before. You have to take chance, you have to take risk, and you can't
Yeah.
be afraid of I wouldn't even call this failure, honestly.
No, no.
No, people are afraid if something closes or whatever, like you failed. First of all, I got a book deal out of it, which was unbelievable. And it's because the food was really well received. So, as you know, the executive chef of the restaurant, I like very excited that the food was, as people loved it as much as, I hoped they would. So, it's just New York City restaurant industry is incredibly obviously competitive, and
To even get a restaurant open in New York is an achievement. I tell my kids all the time, fail fast, learn faster.
yeah.
Period. Just
Yeah,
just
and I don't think I'll open a restaurant again anytime soon. But I had an amazing experience. I loved my partner. We're still friends. Everything's been great. Like nothing bad. It just was a really tricky thing to figure out.
Sure, sure. Well, I want to be so respectful of your time. You're so busy. We have to talk about Tahini Baby.
Yes.
The title alone makes me smile, right?
Hold
It's
on. I'm
like,
gonna grab the book.
yeah, yeah.
So you see it.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's get it on camera. Look at
Tahini
that. Look at that. Look at the smile. Tahini Baby. Over, 100, veg-based recipes. You describe them as joyful, playful, always forgiving.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the book. But what's really interesting to me is that your family is plant forward, but not 100% vegetarian. But you've kind of migrated, to that mostly plant-based for a lot of reasons. And the real key here, Eden, is how do you make great vegetable forward cooking feel exciting versus restrictive? It's always had this sort of medicinal, aura around it.
It's so interesting because I feel like it just needs like time and attention. It needs love. It can't be like a second thought, Like I feel like growing up, we were like, let's eat chicken with some broccoli. Let's eat chicken with some Brussels. Let's eat chicken with this. Don't get me wrong. I'll put chicken with potatoes and shallots and fennel and, lemon and garlic. Like I'll keep it like with, but what I mean to say is I think vegetables should be treated like a main protein, like you would a chicken. Sometimes you need to marinate. Sometimes you need to roast it low and slow. I'm a really big condiment person. Whether or not I'm eating, plant-based, I feel condiments are like the best way to include flavor and depth, texture. I like there's a lot of layering sometimes to my dishes. It's not about a crazy technique. It's really so much about a flavor combination. And if you look through, my book, you'll notice I talk a lot about spices. I lean heavily on spices. I find that they can impart so much personality on a dish. And I use a lot of like cheat ingredients, like preserved lemons. Sometimes they're like, I give you some different ways to make it if you can't find it. But like for me, that feels like a cheat ingredient. It's got so much flavor, a pop of brightness, super lemony, and you have that saltiness from it. When you add that, you create a dimension that just elevates whatever dish you put it on. So for me, what it comes down to is, the simple techniques like knowing how to roast as well. Like I'm roasting at 500 degrees. Don't overcrowd your pan. You want some caramelization. That's another layer of depth and flavor. It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
about simplifying the techniques, talking about them, what makes those little tweaks like what makes all the difference with those little points, and then layering over like, a lot of delicious, yummy things that have love into them. So, like, I'll give you an example. This is actually a dish
What's your
that,
favorite condiment while you're looking for that?
well, okay. I think it's pretty obvious. The book's called Tahini Baby.
I set you up there. That's the assist.
I'm going to have to. Well, first of all, if you haven't made a garlicky tahini, like stop everything now and go and make yourself a big batch of garlicky tahini. Keep it in the fridge. Throw it on literally everything.
Okay.
Everything. I
That's
always
eating out loud. That's
that's
eating out loud.
that's eating out loud. That's tahini baby. Like it, first of all, nutty,
Yeah.
rich. There's body to it. It's beautiful
But
when it's
healthy too, right? Can
listen,
you talk about that a little bit? The
this is the other
calcium, the
thing. Yeah, this is the other thing.
anti-inflammatory, so important today, right?
Yeah, it's pretty
Antioxidant.
incredible. It's a good source of protein, which I was assuming everyone that's going to be eating more veg forward is interested in knowing. A great source of calcium, magnesium, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. I call it like a superfood because you get so much from this one condiment. That's the vibe. Tahini
I
baby.
l- I like the vibe. I like the vibe.
That's my vibe because sometimes a tahini will save the day.
We'll save the
So
day.
we'll save the day. I love that. I use a lot of yogurts, tzatziki, labane, which is a strained thick yogurt, super tangy, gorgeous body. Also, both of those, I'm not this person, but great source of protein as well. I have celery schug or in my other book, just regular schug, which is a Yemen hot sauce. I love heat.
We're going to put a link to the book when we post the chat.
I have my fast and fresh harissa. Like another thing that separates this book from my other book is, I had another baby before this one came out. So I've had less time. And for me, trying to find cheap versions of things was very important because I didn't want to lose out on flavor and I wanted to get food on the table faster. So it's
Yeah,
really about
yeah.
finding those little like kind of cheat ways of doing things. This is another favorite. This is my favorite because it's so simple, but it is the flavor and the impact that you get from adding this. It's my grated tomato for everything. You literally grate fresh tomatoes and then you add garlic. So you have chili, olive oil, salt. Put that on everything. Happiness.
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 Talk about your mom's cheesecake.
My mom's cheesecake. Okay. I've been getting asked about this cheesecake because I talk about it every time I go to, oh, there's my husband.
Hey,
Talk about it like all the time over the last couple of years on my Instagram. And everyone's like, what is this cheesecake? And I was like, I'm going to keep that recipe for my next book, which I did. It's an Austrian style baked cheesecake. And the way you need to eat it is standing in front of the fridge, taking a slice and eating it like basically like a sandwich. No plate required, no utensils. Slice off a chunk of that cheesecake, stand in your fridge, and just eat it. It will be gone within seconds because it's so delicious.
Oh my gosh, what a great chat.
This has been so fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Dish Podcast, brought to you by Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. Visit escoffier.edu/podcast to find any materials mentioned during the podcast, including notes, links, and other resources. And if you can, please leave us a rating on Apple or Spotify and subscribe to support our show. This helps us reach more aspiring individuals ready to take the next step toward their dream careers. Thanks for listening.